Welcome to Mind Life Weekly. My name is Derek, and this channel is all about simple psychology for life. Be sure to subscribe to stay updated on all our videos, and hit the like button to let us know you want more videos like these. Today we'll be defining emotions and talking about emotional suppression. So without making you wait any longer, let's dive in. What exactly are emotions? This might sound like a strange thing to ask, since we all know what emotions are, don't we? We know anger, fear, sadness, happiness, disappointment, and so on. But many of us don't have a good understanding of the exact nature of emotions. Some people think that emotions are physical sensations in the body. They are partly right, but there is so much more to them. An emotion is a physical sensation in the body, but it is also coupled with your evaluation and judgment of what's going on at the time. Here's the crazy thing. There is very little difference in the biochemistry between excitement and fear. Your brain chemistry controls how you feel sensations. While excitement and fear may have the same chemical makeup, there is a huge difference in how you experience them. This difference lies in how you interpret the signals or sensations of each emotion. In positive excitement, you expect good things. In fear, you anticipate the worst. This is why a particular situation, for example riding a roller coaster, can be a positive experience for some and an exceedingly negative one for others. Some feel thrilled and excited as they anticipate riding the roller coaster, while others will be terrified at just the thought of it. The only difference between the thrilled and the terrified is what's happening in their minds as they anticipate the ride. What this means is that the evaluation and judgments made about the ride for the thrilled are significantly different than the evaluation and judgments made about the ride by the terrified. This is the key to understanding how emotions work and how to get them to work for you. Emotions don't arise out of nothing. Every emotion has its origin in very clear and simple logic. The logic may not be immediately apparent, but with a little thought and exploration, you will find out exactly what that logic is. To learn the logic behind your emotions, keep in mind that every emotion is designed to achieve a certain purpose or outcome. In other words, emotions are designed to work for you. Granted, emotions often work against us, but that is not a natural condition. If we were in control of our emotions and mastered the science of using them, they would always work in our favor. This sounds confusing, doesn't it? It helps to understand that every emotion you ever experience is always triggered by how you perceive the environment. Let me give you a quick example of what I mean. One of the classic negative emotions we all have is fear. Consider what fear is designed to do for us, how it serves us and works for us and stops us from doing something dangerous. Fear evolved back in the days of the saber-toothed cat, where humans were the prey of this fierce predator. Fear told us to run away, or when that wasn't possible, to fight for our lives. Fear's function is to help us survive, as it stops us from moving closer and closer to a dangerous situation. Nowadays, there are not that many saber-toothed cats running around the streets, causing us fear. The majority of our fears result from the workings of our subconscious minds and the perceptions we have of what occurs in our environment. We can, for example, feel just as afraid when our boss yells, as our ancestors did when the saber-tooth was sighted. If we were to be that afraid of the boss, we will have to have made an evaluation and judgment about the danger of the boss yelling. Ridiculous, isn't it? Your angry boss probably will not physically assault you with the intent to do you bodily harm. But your subconscious will have decided the boss yelling is the equivalent of facing imminent death. Of course, this is a very different situation than one in which you are actually prey of a more powerful animal. But the same mechanisms are taking place in both situations inside your mind. So how we see the world and how we understand what's going on in a particular situation are crucial factors to how we feel. Whether it's a boss or a saber-toothed cat, our perceptions can colour and change the experience. The great news is that if you learn to see the world differently, you will feel differently. By learning how to see the world differently, you won't be able to help yourself. Your feelings will simply change. Here's how emotions arise. An event happens. You perceive it and notice it, either consciously or unconsciously. Once you notice it, the beliefs and perceptions of how the world works that you always carry with you are going to interpret the event. Deep in your inner mind, you will have a meaning moment and make a value judgment. You will think to yourself, oh, when so-and-so did such and such, it meant this. And this is where the emotion comes in, as a result of realizing what the event means, or rather of thinking about what it means. That's when an emotion will arise. If your interpretation of the event is positive, then you'll feel fantastic. On the other hand, if you believe the event is negative, then all kinds of negative emotions start creeping in. Your inner mind will have sent signals through these emotions, such as anger, fear, sadness, etc. Let's take another example. You might walk into a bar and feel uneasy. The uneasiness is an emotion that is sending signals to you. You might ask yourself, what's going on here? Why do I feel out of sorts? Even without answers to your questions, your emotions have sent you a warning and you decide to leave. Sure enough, moments later a big brawl breaks out. You sensed something in the environment, and by evaluating it correctly and being receptive to your emotions, you got out long before any trouble involved you. So our emotions are efficient warning systems that send out warning signals. But there's a problem. If we don't learn how to interact with these warnings, they are useless, or may worsen the situation. For example, we might receive the signal of an emotion and then shut it down and disregard it. To understand this better, imagine you work in a nuclear power plant and there is pressure building up in a reactor. An alarm signals that an emergency is imminent and requires a fast response to prevent an explosion or meltdown of the entire operation. With the alarm being triggered by the pressure, what do you think would happen if someone just turned the alarm off and then disregarded having ever heard it? The same is true for our emotions. If we shut them down, we guarantee ourselves that we will pay the price later. This could be hours, months, or even years after the incident occurred. At some point, the pressure is going to build up so much that our health and well-being will be negatively affected. We will end up having our own personal explosions or meltdowns to one disastrous degree or another. This includes paying the price of disregarding our emotions by being blindsided by situations that some part of us had already noticed were arising, but we weren't paying attention to. When we shut down and disregard one warning signal, we naturally set the stage for shutting down and disregarding others. Suppression. How do we shut down and disregard our emotions? Primarily through the most common mechanism we have at our disposal: suppression. In suppression, if an emotion you don't like comes up, you push it away, stuff it down inside and say, "No, I'm not going to have this." We have the ability to suppress because sometimes suppressing an emotion is absolutely the right thing to do. Let's say, for example, that you're a parent and your child does something that sparks off your anger. You don't necessarily want to go through the roof, shouting and screaming horrible names at them. You know that's not an appropriate thing to do to a child. So you hold that emotion in check for a while and do not behave inappropriately with your child. In this instance, suppression is a good thing to be able to do. You can investigate it later. You can find out what that anger was actually about and what emotions were really going on. You can resolve the emotion later when it is safer for your child. Conclusion: the key to resolving any emotion lies in understanding the lesson of that particular emotion. It will naturally release and evaporate after you hear the emotional signal and take its lesson from it, because that means its job is done. You will have heard the message of your emotion and you can then move on. Another way of avoiding negative emotions is overly expressing them. This is where one shouts, blames, and just throws temper tantrums. Over-expressing your emotions is much like emotional dumping, blaming others for your problems and misfortunes. But we will look at overly expressing your emotions in another video. I hope you have learned something valuable from our video. The Mind Life Weekly channel will continue to have more discussions on emotions and finding solutions on how to handle negative ones. By understanding your emotions' true intent, not only will you come to a peaceful resolution with your emotions, but you will master your emotions. Once you master your emotions, you will master your destiny. So that's about it from me. As always, thank you for watching Mind Life Weekly. If you enjoyed this video, show us your appreciation by giving us a thumbs up. Share it with your friends so they too can understand what exactly emotions are. Do subscribe to stay tuned for our next fascinating video, which will be out sooner than you think.